In Georgia, if you buy a redeemable deed, you're going to make 20% return, whether it's in one day or a whole year. So if you raise your hand and you buy that redeemable deed and they come in and pay for it next day, you're going to have to give that deed back to them, but they have to give you a 20% return. So imagine this, in one day, all your money back and a 20% return. Is that good or is that good?
Are you new to Georgia tax deed sales? Well, you are in the right place because today we have Ted Thomas, the tax lien certificate and tax deed authority, who has been teaching newcomers for 30 plus years on this business. Today we have questions that have come in from all different social media sites that Ted uses, so let's go ahead and get into it. The first question I have actually comes from one of your subscribers, Ted, and they are wondering, I live in Georgia and I want to invest in Georgia, but I'm confused. Can you explain what a redeemable deed is? Do I have rights to the property after I purchase at auction?
All right, so first of all, Georgia has 159 different counties, and all of the counties are authorized by the legislature of the state to sell redeemable deeds. Now, what is a redeemable deed? Well, generally what a deed is a deed is a transfer device. In other words, it's a piece of paper that someone transferred a property to me. So they sign the deed, maybe a warranty deed or whatever kind of deed, they sign it over to me. Now I have a deed. So that transferred the property to me. However, in the tax defaulted business, if people don't pay their taxes, the county has been authorized by the legislature and the board of supervisors to go ahead and confiscate the property. So some states, they don't confiscate the property right away. What they do is they do like they do in Georgia. In Georgia, they sell a redeemable deed. So anybody, you, Claudia, or Ted, or Shelton, or anybody can come forward, raise a hand, and buy that redeemable deed. All right, now when we buy it, what we have to do is we have to bid. All right, so let's say the county started the bid at $5,000, and Shelton wanted it, so he bids $7,000. So I said, oh, I really want this one, so I bid $9,000. And it just go through a bidding process. Now, whoever is the highest bidder is going to get that deed. And then the county is going to issue them that deed. The deed is nothing more than a piece of paper. But that's a redeemable deed. Now, what does that mean? That means that the property owner can redeem that deed. In other words, they can get it back. So your question was, do you own the property? Well, you own the deed, the redeemable deed. You can't do anything with that redeemable deed. You can't go on the property. You can't charge rent. You can't try to evict them. You can't do anything. All you do is you just own the right to collect money. That's all you have, is the right to collect money. However, after 1 year, that's a right of redemption that's been given to the property owner. Okay, so anytime during that 1 year, whether it's day 1, day 90, day 180, whatever day it is, if that property owner comes forward and wants the deed back, they have to give you all the money you invested. In other words, give you back your money, 100% return to capital. That's kind of nice, right? And a powerful 20% return. Is that unbelievable or what? All right, so you don't get the property, okay? You don't have any rights on the property. However, after the 1 year, the whole ball game changes because now you could start a foreclosure on the right to redeem. You could do a foreclosure and you could end up with the property. If you're my client, I say, you just sit on your rusty dusty for that whole year. If they don't come in, don't do anything and let it go over into the second year. Why? Because in the second year, it doesn't pay 20%, it pays 30%. So you want to keep pursuing what you just asked about.
All right, we have another question here. I want to invest in Georgia, but I live in Texas. Does Georgia have online auctions or are they only in person?
Okay, we're talking about Georgia. Georgia currently only has live or physical auctions, okay? So all the counties are authorized to have a physical auction. Sooner or later, one of the counties will decide to do an online one, sooner or later. That's not today when I'm recording this. Today, they're going to do just the live auction, which 20 years ago, all the counties in the United States just did live, and they've slowly transferred over. Georgia is just doing live auctions. However, if you're already in Texas, Texas had 254 counties. They're all authorized to have an auction every single month. Why would you want to go to Georgia? In Texas, you could earn 25% in 6 months. There is no higher return in the United States than there is in Texas.
All right, another question here that came from Twitter. I saw a video where Ted said you can earn 30% in Georgia. How?
Okay, so in Georgia, as I mentioned earlier, in Georgia, you're not getting a property. You get a redeemable deed. So using my hands, if this is day 1, and over here is day 365, any day the property owner comes in to pay, any day they come in to pay, they have to give you back all your money plus 20% in the first year. Now, in the second year, if they haven't paid you in the first year, on this 365 day, you could start a foreclosure on the right to redeem. You could start a foreclosure. For my client, I say, don't start a foreclosure. Let it roll into the second year. In the second year, you can earn 30%. In the third year, you could earn 40%. And the year after that, you could earn 50%. So this is going to take a little study on your part. You'll have to understand it. But the minimum return in Georgia is 20%. Now, that's a phenomenal rate of return, 20%. So you're either going to, in your first year, you're either going to make 20%, or after the 365th day, you're going to get the property. So you're either going to make 20% or get the property. Is that a great deal? Well, where I come from, that's a hell of a deal.
Okay, we have a comment on one of your Facebook posts from Kylie, and she wants to know, does the mortgage stay on the property in Georgia?
Generally speaking, when an auction finally takes place, an auction of the property, what will happen is that the mortgage will be extinguished by the treasurer. So think of that, a big X goes through the mortgage or the deed of trust. All right, but when you start out in Georgia, you're going to buy on day 1. There's 365 days here. That mortgage is still on the property. Okay, after an auction takes place, a foreclosure auction will wipe out, extinguish any liens on the property that have to do with mortgages or had to do with judgments and so on. Now, I didn't say it wiped out all liens. I didn't say that. I said it wiped out mortgages and deeds of trust. However, you could still have a municipal lien on a property. You could have a federal lien. Now, every property doesn't have a federal lien. That's like the IRS or something. Every property doesn't have that. Every property doesn't have a municipal lien. However, it's good to know by doing your due diligence what will remain. So to answer the question, during the first 365 days, that mortgage is still on the property.
All right, our next question is, how often does Georgia have redeemable deed auctions?
So the county's basically going to say, all right, we're going to have a tax defaulted auction. We are authorized to do it every month. Now, if they've only got 2 properties that are in default, they're probably not going to have an auction. If they've got 15, 20, 50, or sometimes they have 150 properties, they're darn sure going to have the auction. Why? Because they want the money in. They need the money from the defaulted tax. The whole thing we're talking about today is defaulted taxes. People haven't paid the taxes. Now, to get the money, the county has to go through this process of having a redeemable tax auction.
Okay, and the last question we have comes from one of your subscribers again, and they want to know, are there over-the-counter properties in Georgia that you can purchase?
Georgia has a rule that they don't sell anything over the counter, whereas most states, if a tax lien certificate doesn't sell, you can go buy it over the counter. There's no over-the-counter sales in the state of Georgia.
Thank you, Ted. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and leave a comment. And Ted has a free gift in the description below.
Okay, I want to mention something that is really the key to the vault. What everybody really wants is they really want a combination of being able to make money. So I'm going to give you a combination to a vault where you can open the vault and there's as much money as you want. And what I do is I created an auction calendar. So across the United States, there will be 5,000 auctions. Of those 5,000 auctions, we are recording that. We know when they are. So this auction calendar, you can find out when they're taking place and have access to 100 million properties. I said 100 million properties sitting on your rusty dusty at your kitchen table There's a kind of a demonstration. From time to time, it will be below me, and you can see that. Take a good close look. You'll learn a lot. I'm Ted Thomas.